story of giants in Quran and Prophet Hud Alayhissalam and People of Aad. Welcome to a journey back to the dawn of civilization, to a world of giants and emerald valleys that the sands of time have long since reclaimed. In this story, we explore the rise and cataclysmic fall of the People of Aad, the superpower of the ancient world, and the unwavering faith of the Prophet Hud. It is a timeless epic of pride, patience, and the invisible forces that shape our destiny. We invite you to immerse yourself in this cinematic retelling of a sacred history that speaks as much to our modern world as it did to the ancients. Thank you for joining us. If this story moves you, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Your support is what allows us to grow and continue bringing these prophetic narratives to life. In the age before memory fully hardened into history, when the world was still young enough to remember the flood, there rose from the red sands of the southern Arabian Peninsula a people unlike any other. They were called the Aad. Descendants of Sam, the son of Prophet Nuh, peace be upon him, they had inherited a earth still exhaling after the great deluge. And what an inheritance it was! Their land, nestled between what would one day be called Yemen and Oman, was green and generous. Rivers ran where now there is only dust. Frankincense trees perfumed the air with a smoke so sweet it seemed the earth itself was always in prayer. The land yielded crops in abundance, and the sky gave rain without being asked. But it was the Aad themselves who were the true wonder. They were giants of men, tall, broad-shouldered, their arms like the trunks of ancient trees. They moved through the world as though the earth had been made specifically to hold their weight, and they believed it had. They quarried stone from mountains the way other men plucked fruit from vines, and from those stones they built cities that made travelers stop and weep with astonishment. Columns rose toward the heavens in forests of carved granite. Palaces stretched across hillsides like sleeping kings. Temples bore ceilings so high that birds sometimes flew lost inside them. With Iram, who had lofty pillars, the likes of whom had never been created in the land. Surah Al-Fajr 89:7-8. The world knew of the Aad. Their fame spread across trade routes and whispered through the bazaars of distant cities. They were the superpower of their age, and they knew it. In every council hall, in every feast beneath the stars, the same proud boast rolled easily off their tongues. Who is greater than us in strength? Surah Fussilat 41:15. Yet for all their greatness, something vital had been lost. They had not forgotten Allah entirely. They acknowledged Him as Creator, as some remote, vast, impersonal force who had shaped the cosmos and then stepped back, disinterested in the little dramas of human lives. But in the space between that distant God and their daily existence, they had erected idols. Carved from stone by the same skilled hands that built their palaces, these gods were given names and personalities and assigned roles. The god of rain, the god of harvest, the god of war. The priests grew wealthy. The chiefs grew powerful. And the religion of their idols conveniently demanded pride, hierarchy, and the trampling of the weak beneath the boots of the strong. Generations passed this way. The memory of the flood remained. It was woven into their poetry, murmured by grandmothers over evening fires. But its lesson had been emptied out, leaving only the shell of a story. Then Allah, in His boundless mercy, sent them a man. His name was Hud. He was one of them, bone of their bone, blood of their blood. He had grown up watching the same sunrises paint the sandstone cliffs amber and gold. He had heard the same wind move through the frankincense trees at dusk with its low, restless moan. He knew the names of every family, every elder, every child in the settlements scattered across those fertile valleys. And because of this, because he was them in every way except one, what he carried inside him felt to those around him like the deepest possible betrayal. Prophet Hud had been given something the others could not see, a clarity, a knowing, a light that had settled in his chest like a coal that never stopped glowing. Allah had chosen him, and in being chosen, he had been changed. He saw through the stone idols now. He saw through the pride in the palaces. He saw a people of extraordinary gifts heading, step by magnificent step, toward ruin. So he stood before them. Not in the palace courts at first, but in the open places, at the gathering wells, in the market squares, at the edges of their great construction sites, where men worked stone under a burning sun. O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him. You are not but inventors of falsehood. Surah Hud 1150. At first they laughed. It was the laughter of men who cannot imagine themselves being wrong. Full-bellied, dismissive, almost fond. Indeed, we see you in foolishness, and indeed, we think you are of the liars. Surah Al-Araf 766. Prophet Hud did not flinch. He had expected this. He looked at the faces of the men who had once been his companions, men he had walked with as a boy, men whose children played with the dust at his feet, and he felt something that was neither anger nor despair, but something closer to a profound, aching sorrow. O my people, there is not foolishness in me, but I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. I convey to you the messages of my Lord, and I am to you a trustworthy advisor. Surah Al-Araf 767-68. He reminded them of what they already knew, that they had been placed on this earth as successors to Nuh's people, that their stature, their gifts, their glorious land were not accidents of nature, but blessings from a Lord who saw them and loved them and was waiting, patiently waiting, for them to turn back. Then do you wonder that there has come to you a reminder from your Lord through a man from among you, that he may warn you? And remember when he made you successors after the people of Noah and increased you in stature extensively. So remember the favors of Allah that you might succeed. Surah Al-A'raf 769. He asked for nothing in return. No gold, no title, no position at the chief's right hand. O my people, I do not ask you for it any reward. My reward is only from the one who created me. Then will you not reason? Surah Hud 1151. But the chiefs of Aad were not men accustomed to being reasoned with. Their power rested on the very idols Prophet Hud was calling them to abandon. Their wealth flowed from the temples and the priests. A God who demanded no tribute, required no carved image, and answered to no earthly intermediary. Such a God was not just inconvenient, he was dangerous. So they organized their opposition with the same efficiency they applied to quarrying stone. They mocked Prophet Hud in the councils. They warned ordinary people away from him. They whispered that something dark had gotten into him, that one of their own gods, angered by his blasphemy, had seized his mind. We only say that some of our gods have possessed you with evil. Surah Hud 1154. And still Prophet Hud stood. Days became seasons. Seasons folded into years. The Prophet of the Aad continued his calling with the patient, immovable persistence of a tree that weathers storm after storm without uprooting. He walked among his people. He engaged the young men who still had some wondering left in them. He reasoned with the elders. He warned, he pleaded, he implored. He spoke of the day when every soul would be made to stand and account for what it had done with the gift of its life. He described the resurrection with such vivid certainty that even some of his enemies listened, momentarily transfixed, before shaking their heads and sneering. "O Hud, do you say that after we die and turn into dust, we will be resurrected?" "Yes," he replied without hesitation. "You will come back on the day of judgment, and each of you will be asked about what you did." They whispered to each other, smiling. How strange Hud's claims are. But Prophet Hud answered every question, even the mocking ones, with the same calm fire. He told them that Allah was not a cold and distant architect who had abandoned his creation. He was near, he was watchful. He held the very forelock of every living thing. And on that coming day, all the gold and all the stone columns in all the palaces of Aad would not buy a single moment's grace. Does he promise you that when you have died and become dust and bones that you will be brought forth once more? How far is that which you are promised? Surah Al-Mu'minun 23:35. They spoke these words as mockery. Prophet Hud heard in them the sound of a door swinging shut. A small number came to him quietly in the evenings when the fires had died low. They came with careful eyes and cautious steps, checking over their shoulders before sitting beside him. Some were young, some were old. All of them had felt something shift inside them when Prophet Hud spoke. Some thorn of doubt about the stone gods, some inexplicable pull toward the invisible Lord their prophet described with such unshakable conviction. They believed. The Aad, in their arrogance, barely noticed. Then, in the way that divine warnings sometimes arrive, not as lightning, but as silence, the rain stopped. It did not happen all at once. The first dry season was unremarkable. Droughts came and went. The Aad knew this. But the second dry season followed hard on the first, and the third followed harder still. The rivers thinned to threads. The frankincense trees began to look somehow less alive, their bark taking on a grayish pallor, their branches reaching upward as though begging. The great canals that the Aad had built with such engineering brilliance carried now only a trickle of what they once held. The green land was beginning to die. Prophet Hud stood before his people one more time, and in his voice now was something new, not just the clarity of a man who knows the truth, but the grief of a man who can see exactly how the story ends. O my people, ask forgiveness of your Lord, and then repent to him. He will send rain from the sky upon you in showers, and increase you in strength added to your strength. And do not turn away, being criminals. Surah Hud 11:52. But the chiefs even now did not soften. 3 years of drought had made them not humble, but harder. They shook their fists at the horizon. Have you come to us that we should worship Allah alone and leave what our fathers have worshipped? Then bring us what you promise us, if you should be of the truthful. Surah Al-Araf 7:70. They stared at the sky and dared it. This is not but the custom of the former peoples, and we will not be punished. Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26:138. Hud turned away from them then, not in defeat, but with the terrible calm of a man who has done everything that can be done. He raised his hands toward the sky that had grown so mercilessly bright and empty above him. My Lord, help me, because they have denied me. Surah Al-Mu'minun 23:39. And from somewhere beyond the scorched silence, an answer came, gentle, certain, inexorable. Soon they will be truly regretful. Surah Al-Mu'minun 23:40. On the morning it came, the sky to the west turned a strange color, not the usual pale, washed-out blue of the drought sky, but something deep and churning and alive. The people of Aad had been watching the horizon for 3 years with desperate eyes. When they saw the cloud building in the west, great and dark and full, their hearts leapt. They ran from their houses, they streamed out of their palaces and temples. Children were lifted onto shoulders, old men wept with relief. They pointed and laughed and embraced each other, years of hardship dissolving in an instant at the sight of that magnificent towering cloud sweeping in from the sea. This is a cloud bringing us rain. Surah Al-Ahqaf 46:24. Prophet Hud saw the cloud too. He stood apart from the celebration, and those who were with him, the small, faithful remnant who had believed, watched his face and saw something there that made them draw close to him instinctively, the way birds press together before a storm. His expression was not one of relief. He said it quietly, but those nearby heard every word. Rather, it is that for which you were impatient, a wind, within it, a painful punishment. Surah Al-Ahqaf 46:24. And then the wind came. It did not announce itself with thunder. It arrived in silence first, a hush so complete that even the dust stopped moving. The celebrating crowd faltered, confused. A child started to cry. Then, from the heart of that enormous cloud, a sound began. Low at first, a vibration felt in the chest before it was heard by the ears. Building until it became a roar that swallowed every other sound in the world. The wind struck the Aad like the fist of heaven. Trees that had stood for centuries were pulled from the earth as casually as weeds. The great stone columns, those magnificent towering symbols of Aadite pride, cracked and toppled with sounds like the breaking of bones. People were lifted from the ground, tumbling through the screaming air, their cries lost instantly in the howl of the gale. For 7 nights and 8 days without pause, the wind did not rest. Indeed, we sent upon them a screaming wind on a day of continuous misfortune, extracting the people as if they were trunks of palm trees, uprooted. Surah Al-Qamar 54:19-20. The palaces fell, the temples fell. The carved idols, those stone faces that had for so long received the prayers and offerings of a mighty people, smashed into rubble and were scattered across the desert. All of the Aad's pride, all their strength, all their beauty, all their magnificent defiance, could not stand against what Allah had sent. It left nothing of what it came upon, but that it made it like disintegrated ruins. Surah Ad-Dariyat 51:42. When it was over, the land of the Aad was unrecognizable. Where cities had stood, there were ruins half buried in drifting sand. Where a people had boasted of unmatched power, there was silence. The hearing and vision and hearts that Allah had given them, those extraordinary gifts, had not protected them because they had refused to use them for the purpose for which they were given. And we had certainly established them in such as we have not established you, and we made for them hearing and vision and hearts. But their hearing and vision and hearts availed them not from anything of the punishment, when they were continually rejecting the signs of Allah, and they were enveloped by what they used to ridicule. Surah Al-Ahqaf 46:26. Through all of it, Prophet Hud and his believers were safe. It is said that Allah sheltered them in an enclosed valley where the wind, for all its fury, reached them only as a gentle breeze, cool and almost tender, as though the storm knew whom to spare. They stood together in the darkness of those 8 days, listening to the roar beyond their sanctuary, and they prayed. When the wind finally stilled and they walked out into the changed world, the believers carried with them something the Aad had never possessed, despite all their wealth and stone, a heart unbroken, because it had been surrendered to the one who cannot be broken. So we saved him and those with him by mercy from us, and we eliminated those who denied our signs, and they were not at all believers. Surah Al-Araf 7:72. Prophet Hud led his people south through the scarred landscape until they reached the valleys of Hadramaut, green even then, sheltered between ancient hills, watered by springs that rose from deep within the earth, as though the ground itself was offering them a gift. There they settled, there they planted, there they prayed. Prophet Hud lived for 150 years, it is said. He walked those valleys until his hair was white and his steps had slowed, and still his eyes held that light, the coal in the chest that had never stopped glowing. When he passed from this world, he left behind him not a palace, not a column, not a monument of stone. He left behind a community of people who remembered, in the deepest way, that they were not the greatest strength in the universe. Only one was that, and he was merciful. The Aad vanished from the earth, but not from memory. Their story moved through the centuries like the wind itself, through the poetry of Arabs, through the scripture of the Quran, through the hearts of everyone who would ever stand at the edge of their own pride and feel, for a moment, the faint and warning breath of something vast moving in from the west. The wind that once leveled the pillars of Iram still blows across the deserts of Arabia, a haunting reminder that no power is absolute except that of the Creator. Prophet Hud's A.S. life teaches us the beauty of prophetic patience and the courage required to stand for truth when the world chooses the illusion of its own greatness. We hope this narrative has touched your heart and provided a moment of reflection on the true nature of strength. Thank you for watching this story. If you found value in this story, please show your support by liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps our community grow and ensures these timeless lessons reach hearts all around the world. Peace and blessings be upon you.